Hey everyone, Grandmaster Stitch here with my first review and overview for Game of Thrones Season 8, obviously starting with Episode 1. I'll start with the new intro sequence, which I thought was absolutely awesome. I loved it. I loved how it had little nods to special moments in the series. I didn't notice this till the second time watching the intro. But if you're looking like the little bands, you can see like special sequence, like there's the Red Wedding, where you can see a Lannister lion holding a Tully trout, or like the Bolton flayed man holding up a Stark dire wolf's head. And then you've obviously got Dany with her 3 dragons and the comet, which I thought was really cool. A nice little nod, nice little things like that are really cool that you have to like have second watches to see. I also loved how the wall was broken and the ice was spreading down to the last half and around it, and I think it'd be really cool if this carries on throughout the season, so that like as the White Walkers get further south, the ice will spread further throughout the season. I think that'd be really cool. We start off in Winterfell, and there's a lot of parallels between this episode and the pilot episode for season 1. It starts with a young boy who's rushing through the crowds to try and get a better view of Jon and Dany arriving with her armour, and he has to climb up a tree to get a better view, and this mirrors obviously when Bran climbed up the top of the tower in the pilot to see Robert Baratheon coming up the King's Road with his army, or well, his entourage. So, and it even uses the same music, which I thought was really cool. A nice little nod back to season 1. First exchange in the show is between Tyrion and Varys as they're in the wagon, and Tyrion basically is telling more eunuch jokes, which is pretty much all he seems to do nowadays. So hopefully we get to see a bit more of your classic, more clever Tyrion as the season goes on, but I don't think that we will. We get some beautiful shots of Winterfell as well, which looks absolutely incredible. And we also get our first shot of the dragons as well as they fly over the top of the Winterfell, and all the small folk seem absolutely terrified. And for some reason this makes Dany really happy, but she does seem quite smug throughout this episode. Then we get our first reunion of the episode, and there's a lot of reunions in this episode, which was really nice. But we get Bran and Jon first, and it was nice to see how happy Jon is to see Bran, but then Bran's obviously in his robot mode like he is now, so he's not really too bothered, and it freaks Jon out a little bit. And then we get where Sansa meets Dany, and she makes it painfully obvious that she's not happy about Dany being there and that she doesn't like her, which seems a little bit foolish and unlike Sansa, as we know that she normally is really good at hiding behind her courtesies and making people underestimate her, but she makes it that obvious that she doesn't like Daenerys. And Daenerys obviously picks up on this and sees this as some sort of threat or as a problem. So, yeah, considering we're meant to believe that Sansa's the smartest person in the world now for some reason, I don't really know why or what she's done that's so smart, but we keep getting reminded by characters about how smart she is. But, yeah, this doesn't seem very smart on Sansa's part, and it's not the only silly mistake she makes this episode. And then Bran gets straight to the point, which I loved. Is like they've got all these nice little reunions and people meeting, and Bran's like, we haven't got time for this. The Night King has got an ice dragon. He's broke through the wall and he's marching on Winterfell. And yeah, and then no one seems to really be bothered about that again for the rest of the episode. We then get a scene in Winterfell's Hall where they decide to send little Ned Umber back to the last half. Even though the White Walkers have broke through the wall, this seems like a very silly thing to do, and I knew straight away that there was no way that Ned Umber was making it back to Winterfell, as the last half is that close to the wall. There was no way he was going to make it there and back in time, so I don't really know why they would have sent him back north. We then get a little exchange about how there's not going to be enough food to feed this huge army, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for much longer. I don't think much of the army is going to be around for long. We then get all the dragonglass arriving in Winterfell with Gendry, who's obviously going to be crafting all these dragonglass weapons ready for the fight with the others. And then we get our second reunion, which is Tyrion and Sansa, and they have a little talk about the Purple Wedding, and Sansa jokes about it having its good moments, which I thought was really funny. We then get the Jon and Arya reunion, which was better than expected. This is the one I was looking forward to most. I've been looking forward to this for years. So I was a bit worried before that they were going to ruin this, but I thought it went quite well. The only thing that was missing for me, I would have liked if he'd have mussed up her hair, maybe, as a book fan. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I think it was a really good reunion. It was better than I expected, like I said. It was quite emotional. The only thing I didn't like was when she brings up about how Sansa's so smart, because like I said earlier, I really don't understand where this Sansa being smart has come from. But I definitely think that there is hinting towards there being some sort of conflict between the Stark children and Daenerys, or maybe Jon and Daenerys at some point this season. We now move to King's Landing for the first time this episode, and we have Cersei standing out looking to sea as the Golden Company is arriving with the Greyjoy fleet. And Qyburn comes and tells her that there's terrible news and the wall's fallen, and Cersei's really glad about this, which further proves how much of a nutcase Cersei is. We then get Harry Strickland, who's obviously the leader of the Golden Company, meeting Cersei in the throne room, and I love how they gave him the SRC accent as well. I thought that was a nice little touch, but then we find out there's no elephants, which is a shame because really wanted to see elephants, but obviously budget needs to go on the dragons. We also get more of Euron, who's, in my opinion, pretty much a waste of screen time. I don't really enjoy this Euron at all. He is just such a shallow and empty character compared to his book counterpart that I just can't enjoy this character. And the King's Landing stuff was a bit boring and empty for me, in my opinion. Even with Lena Headey's amazing performances, as always, it just seems so flat. And then Cersei obviously sleeps with Euron as promised, but she is drinking again, I noticed, which she did give up last season. So does this mean that she's lost the baby, or was she never pregnant at all? Because she seems to get very sad when Euron mentions the baby. Well, mentions putting a prince in her. We then get our first scene with Bronn, who's with 3 whores. And they're talking about the dragon fight from last season, obviously, with the loot train. And they mention a Ginger Lannister soldier who was burnt, called Ed. So I don't know if this is a nod to Ed Sheeran's Lannister soldier character from last season. And then Bronn is offered a lot of money by Cersei to kill Jaime and Tyrion. But this links in, for me, I think, with a part from season 1 when Tyrion and Bronn first meet. And Tyrion tells him that if anyone ever, asks you to kill me, I'll pay double. So maybe we'll get Tyrion or Jaime asking him to pay double. But I don't think Bronn will actually kill either of them, to be honest. I can't see it. Even though he is a heartless sellsword, I just don't think he'd be able to do it. One thing I'm not too sure about is that we know that the Lannister soldiers aren't coming north, but they all bent the knee to Daenerys after the Loot Train episode, the Lannister Lords and the Reach Lords, so I'm surprised that they aren't with her anyway. I don't really understand why they now need Cersei's permission to go north, and also Jaime isn't in the Kingsguard now, so wouldn't they have to follow Jaime as he'd be the rightful heir to the Lannister lands anyway? And then obviously there's no sign of Dorne, the Stormlands, the Riverlands or the Reach, so I don't really know what's going on there. I suppose they don't really have time to put it in, but it'd be nice to have a little mention of what's going on in the other 7 kingdoms and where these people are. We then get Theon, who saves Asha or Yara from Euron's ship, the Silence, which is very lightly guarded for some reason. You think he'd probably move her into the Red Keep to keep her safe, as it's like a pretty important hostage for him, but no, they get to save her fairly easy. And then we get Theon decides that he's going to return north to help the Starks, which is I thought he would. I think that he'll probably be one of the characters to die in Winterfell, fully redeeming himself that way. We then return back to Winterfell, where the Karstark army is arriving, and we get a little exchange between Davos, Varys and Tyrion. Davos is basically telling them that if you want to earn the Northmen's respect, you literally have to earn their loyalty, and the free folk, they're very stubborn, which we obviously know. Then Davos obviously proposes that after the war's finished, if they win the war for the Dawn, that Jon and Dany get married, and Varys suggests that nothing lasts, maybe hinting at more conflict between Jon and Dany, which I definitely think is coming this season. Dany then points out to Jon that Sansa should respect her more and hints at conflict again. We then get the news that the dragons aren't eating, and then this is when we get Jon's first dragon ride, which the dragons look absolutely incredible. I want to start by saying that, but I thought the scene was very fan service. It didn't really make sense to me. I know it further proves that Jon is a Targaryen, but I don't understand why the hell Dany would ask one of her most loyal servants, yeah, just jump on this dragon and go for a fly, when she doesn't, from all she knows from Targaryen history, is that only Targaryens fly dragons. So this is so risky. Rhaegal could turn around and just toast him alive, or or even if it does let him on, he could fall off and die. And the Northern Lords already do not want her there. And then if their lord suddenly falls off a dragon, I don't think it's going to go down very well with the Northern Lords. And also with everything that's going on at the minute, and they know that the Night's King is literally approaching them, is it really the time to be going on a dragon flying date? I think it was a bit cringy, this whole scene. As awesome as it looked, I felt it would have made more sense if Jon rode Rhaegal after the reveal of him finding out he's a Targaryen, or in a desperate moment later on in the season in the battle for Winterfell, maybe. But yeah, fair enough. This whole romance between Jon and Dany, to me, I'm just not buying the love story. I just don't think there's any chemistry at all between them. It just doesn't fit. It just seems very cringy and forced. Also, I'm saying about the dragons looking incredible. Where the hell's Ghost? Still no Ghost. I thought we'd get him this season. I hope we do see him before the end of the season, but then I do worry that it's going to be a case of like when we didn't see Summer for a while, and it's going to be Ghost is going to pop in the Battle of Winterfell for one scene and get killed. I really hope that doesn't happen. Obviously, in the love scene, we get a bit of a parallel with the Jon and Ygritte in the cave. So, yeah, more parallels, but obviously the chemistry between Jon and Ygritte was absolutely incredible, and I'm not feeling any of it with Dany and Jon, like I said. But I suppose they did go on to get married in real life, so they were bound to have good chemistry. We then get another reunion, which is Arya and the Hound. Both very cold to each other, which was awesome. I'm glad they didn't make this soppy, because it wouldn't have been. So I just loved how he calls her a cold bitch, and you can tell that they respect each other and they're happy that each other are alive, and that's it. And then we get the Arya and Gendry reunion, and Arya gives him something for this weapon, which I'm not sure what it is. Is it some sort of spear or ballista or night glass launching thing? I'm not sure. I'm excited to see what this is going to be. And then I think they do little hints for an Arya-Gendry relationship, which also seems a bit fan servicey to me, and I didn't really like the idea of it. We also then get a scene with Jon and Sansa, and Sansa yet again is not taking the dead serious, yet apparently she's really smart, but yep, she's not interested. She's just more bothered about Daenerys, even though she's brought this massive army north to help. We then get what for me is the highlight of this episode. We get Daenerys meeting Sam for the first time to thank him for obviously saving Ser Jorah, but then Sam obviously finds out about his father and brother, and when he finds out about his father, he's like, oh, well, at least I can go home now, my brother's the Lord. And then he finds out obviously his baby brother's been killed, and John Bradley's acting in this scene, yeah, like I said, was the highlight. It was absolutely incredible. He absolutely smashed this scene. It was outstanding and so believable. And yeah, I absolutely loved this scene. It's now that Bran and Sam, well, Bran decides that Jon needs to know the truth and Sam should be the one to tell him. Bran is waiting outside. He spends most of this episode outside. He's waiting for an old friend who is obviously Jaime Lannister. So now we get the Jon and Sam reunion down in the crypts, and this was a nice little reunion. This felt like one of the more genuine ones. This is probably because they've done a lot of acting together over the years, so they've built up that great chemistry. And I love how when Jon finds out about his parents, I think this is a nice little touch, again paralleling back to season 1, where Ned's statue is in the background. And obviously in season 1, Ned tells Jon that the next time they meet, they'll talk about his mother. Obviously, he did see the statue last season when he was down there with Littlefinger, but I still think it was a really nice touch, as well as when he's finding out about his mother, you've got the statue of Lyanna in the background, which I thought was really good. And yet again, John Bradley, who plays Sam, was incredible in this scene. Jon is not interested in the throne, only the War for the Dawn, which is very fitting for Jon. We know he's not going to be interested in the crown at all. And then, obviously, we get more set up for tension between Jon and Daenerys when Sam's saying that you're the rightful king. Would you have burnt these people alive who've surrendered? And then he also says that you obviously put your crown aside to save your people, but will Dany do the same? And obviously, yeah, this is hinting at more conflicts, and I do not think Dany will. I can't see it going down too well when Dany finds out that there is a better claimant to the throne than her, because obviously her whole story's been about how she is the rightful queen to the Iron Throne. This is the only thing that keeps her going. She wants the Iron Throne. And yeah, I do not find it going down very well with her when she finds out that she doesn't have a claim to the throne. It's all Jon's. We then get to see the last half, which is cool. It's always nice to see a new castle, and we find out Tormund and Beric Dondarrion and other people from Eastwatch have survived and made it here. So it's cool. I'm glad that Tormund's alive. I absolutely love Tormund in the book and show. He's one of my favourite characters. I don't think he'll be making it through the series, but it's nice that he's alive. And also, Ed is alive as well from the Night's Watch, which is awesome because I also love Ed. So I'm glad that they're alive and these two bump into each other. The last half has already been attacked by the Night's King and it's a complete mess. There's no bodies. Obviously, they're further soldiers for the Army of the Dead that's going to be making its way to Winterfell. And then we find little Ned Umber. As expected, he's dead, just like I thought he would be, but he's pinned to the wall, and he's got this symbol around him that we've seen several times throughout the series, which is obviously some sort of symbol from the Children of the Forest, as you see it when the Night's King's made around the weirwood tree. We also see it back in, I think, Season 3 with all the dead horses after the fight at the Fist of the First Men. We also see similar symbols in Season 1. So this definitely means something, I think. I don't know whether we'll find out what it means, but they're definitely trying to tell us something, the White Walkers. It's definitely something to do with the First Men runes or the Children of the Forest. Maybe it's some forgotten pact, which is why the White Walkers are attacking in the first place. So it'd be interesting to see what this is all about. Some people think that when it sets on fire, it looks a bit like the Targaryen sigil, and I can see it slightly, but I'm not sure whether that's meant to be the case or not. And then, obviously, as this is happening, Ned Umber opens his eyes and we get a bit of a jump scare, which I thought was pretty cool. We then return back to Winterfell for the last scene of the episode where Jaime arrives in Winterfell. And I loved this reunion because he gets down off his horse, he looks around, has a bit of a smile at Winterfell, and then he sees Bran. And the look on Jaime's face is absolutely priceless as Bran just sits there smiling at him. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here. We then obviously get the trailer for the next episode where it looks like Jaime Lannister's going to be on trial, and Dany's obviously saying about all the things they wanted to do, her and Viserys, to the man who murdered their father. So I don't know if she's going to want him dead. I could see this happening maybe, and Daenerys not wanting him there. And then maybe Brienne's going to step up and vouch for him, or I also think Bran will, because I think he knows that without Jaime pushing him out that window, he wouldn't have had these powers, and which is going to help them in the war. And I think he knows that Jaime probably has a part to play still. And I don't think Jon and a lot of the other lords, like the Northern and Vale lords, are going to want this either, considering they know what the Mad King was. So I think this is going to cause further conflict between Jon and Daenerys as the season goes on. And then obviously we get Tormund and Ed arriving at Winterfell just in time to say that the Army of the Dead is there. So I think the next episode is going to literally get everybody ready for this fight. And it'll probably end with the White Walkers and the Army of the Dead just arriving at Winterfell, ready for episode 3, where we obviously get the massive Battle of Winterfell, which I cannot wait for. Overall, I did really enjoy this episode. It was a lot better than expected. Even though I've been really looking forward to it, I was a bit worried after last season, because last season for me was pretty poor. But for me, this episode was better than pretty much all of last season. It set things up really nicely for the rest of the season. We got all the reunions out of the way. We had a lot of stuff crammed in, but we've got 6 episodes. They're going to have to cram this stuff in. But yeah, we've got most of the reunions out of the way, so we ain't got to worry about that anymore. We've got everybody where they need to be in Winterfell, so I think we're going to really progress the plot in the next few episodes, hopefully. And hopefully it'll carry on getting better as the season goes on. But yeah, I'd probably give the episode a solid 7 out of 10. It was a decent premiere. I can't wait for the next episode. And my pros and cons for this episode, the things that I really enjoyed, again, were John Bradley's acting as Sam. I thought he was incredible. Obviously, a lot of the CGI. Winterfell looked awesome. The Red Keep looked the best it's probably ever looked. The dragons looked incredible. It would have been nice to see Ghost, like I said. Other high points, I liked some of the reunions were really nice. It was nice to get everyone in one place, see a bit more. I loved the new intro, like I said. I thought that was incredible as well. My cons for the episodes, I thought the King's Landing stuff was a little bit filler. It wasn't very good for me, in my opinion. Fairly boring, but I suppose we do need to know what's going on down there still. Also, I obviously weren't too keen on the dragon riding thing. It seemed a bit fan servicey. I don't think it was done in the right way for me personally, but obviously I respect other people's opinions of why they might have enjoyed it. I just think it should have been done at a different time in a different way, maybe. But yeah, But yeah, that's my review for this episode. I really hope people have enjoyed. I hope people enjoyed the episode like I did, and hopefully, yeah, you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm a fairly new and young Game of Thrones channel, but I am a huge A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones nerd. I have been for many years. So yeah, there's a lot more Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire content on this channel that will be coming. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon.